On today's episode, we're told that literature exists to entertain us, maybe teach us. But what is the purpose of it? Mom's here. Let's find out. Good morning, everybody. My name is Rob. This is my mom, Karen, and we are the hosts of Books, Banter, and Beyond. And today, let's dive a little deep, like I usually do. What is the purpose of literature? So I reworded it, as I told you, because had written the script and then kind of went back and I was like, let's kind of make it a little bit better of a question here. Because we all were taught what literature is supposed to do, whether it's fiction for entertainment purposes, whether it's nonfiction for teaching purposes. But nobody really goes into what literature is as a thing, so to speak. So we're going to talk about it in a few sections. First up, it orients us in a human experience. So, unlike a textbook, which is strictly for classroom setting, it doesn't primarily just transmit the information. It kind of gives you a lived in experience, so to speak. Literary scholars throughout history have argued that stories give shape to feelings, conflicts, and moments, just to name a few things, and things that are hard to name, such as grief, desire, shame, hope, fear. Think of any adjective or emotion you might
Right,
feel. That's kind
right.
of where we're at. Philosopher Martha Nussbaum has argued that literature expands our understanding of the human vulnerability by putting us into the situational story that the character might be going through. And I think we've talked about this in other books before, whether it's a romance, whether it's a science fiction, you do sort of start to grasp the either severity or the neutrality of the situation. So whether the individual is, meeting a new love of their life, or they're out battling, a giant space creature.
Right.
Either way, you are understanding what the individual is going through. And I think across different cultures, different regions of the world, it all kind of does the same thing within their upbringing. So if you're from a place where you learn a lot about the outdoors, your stories are going to be visually and written about nature, about
Mhm.
the wilderness, right? If you grew up somewhere that's more city-esque, your stories are going to be prone to, building and architecture, right?
Right.
Um, so, do you think, from what you've read, and I'll answer for what I've read, that books in general help you understand what goes on around you, or is it up to you to kind of put two and two together to connect the dots, I guess, in terms of
Well,
meaning?
definitely literature, I think, does help us understand because it does tackle the whole full thing, not just a bunch of words like a textbook, a bunch of words in a book.
Right.
Literature, hopefully, good literature, makes you feel, makes you experience, makes you feel like you're there, you're doing it. And a textbook doesn't necessarily do that. It's
And I'll add on to the fact that I definitely think it's different than getting a fact or getting some sort of life advice because it's two very different dynamics there.
right,
In one way, someone's saying, "Hey, if you want to learn how to do X, Y, and Z, then practice this."
right,
That would be more of a factual thing.
right,
In literature, it's more of a, hey, John Doe just went through a change in, becoming a superhero.
right.
What are we going to get from that other than the physical, visual we get? So it's two very different
Yeah,
forms, even though at the end of the day, it's all writing, it's all
right.
formatted. It's
But
just
it's
two
different.
very different.
It's different than learning facts, obviously. It's for me.
Right. And that goes into our next part here. It preserves where facts kind of end and where culture kind of begins.
Yeah,
So, as we know from history and from archaeology stuff like that, cultures tend to compress experiences into slogans or ideologies. So, when you grow up, depending on where you're from, you learn from your parents, from your, city leaders, whatever, how different things work. And that's similar to what literature does. Literature doesn't teach you necessarily how to be, but it kind of shows you what you can do within the confines of
Hmm.
who you are. Literary critic named Lionel Trilling has argued that literature exists to complicate moral life rather than simplify it. And I like that, when somebody comes out and tries to break the entire thing.
Right.
And I think for what I get, what he's trying to say from my point of view is I think it's literature is there to make you think. If literature made it easy, it probably wouldn't be as entertaining. If you open
Right.
a book and you read it from beginning to end and you're like, oh, well, I could have done that, you probably weren't getting the point of
Right.
the character. So, in the case of what this individual said, literature is here to make you second guess your kind of moral compass in a way and go, well, wait a minute, I was taught this fact, but in this story, it kind of shifts.
Right. Right. Well, I'm noticing that you wrote in most enduring works, characters are neither all good or they're
That is true, and I think the best example a lot of people go to is the Star Wars complex, is what they call it.
Mhm,
You have a character like Darth Vader, for instance, who
mhm.
is, for purposes, the bad guy, but at the heart of it, as Anakin, he's not a bad man. He's unfortunately put into a position
Right.
that where he became more evil. So he's kind of the gray matter, right? He's neither purely evil, he's neither purely good. He's basically what a human is. He's a human being. He's got the thoughts in his mind that are maybe not so friendly, but he also is at his heart a good person. So you do get that outcome in a really good literature where if the character has both sides of them inside of them, you start to go, oh, this person
Right.
is me. This is more
It reminds me
lifelike.
of Wicked and the Wizard of Oz.
That's another good example. Yeah, she's neither
Really,
really necessarily purely bad, purely good, but she's in a position where
to
she
be
has to
neither.
go down a road, you know.
Right.
So why do you think, and this is a perfect question here, why do you think that literature purposely avoids the, cut and paste answer to your question? And like I said before, I think if it was too easy, you wouldn't want to keep reading because you would already know the
Right.
outcome, right?
If I wanted that, I go to the encyclopedia, or I would go Google an answer for something, or Perplexity
Exactly.
or ChatGPT instead of reading the book. If the book is not going to hold me because it's just a bunch of facts, I can get that anywhere.
And I think a good thought here is I think the more uncomfortable the book might be, the more interesting it actually becomes because it actually makes you go, okay, I don't know if I want to continue, but I want to learn how this person
And what comes
changes.
next? Right, and what comes next? Right.
Right. Lastly, up here, literature connects individuals across time without erasing any differences. And I think this is a great section to talk about. So, one of literature's most big purposes here is continuity without the exact identical writing. And it's kind of funny because I know we've talked about before uniqueness in stories, but I think in terms of this, literature allows you to separate each individual century, era, decade, whatever you want to call it, but also realize that each of those people are alike in a way to be understanding. So for those, I know Outlander is a popular show right now, and it came from that series of books.
Mhm,
And a lot of people love it because it's got that historical fiction to it. So basically, if you haven't read it, it takes place more medieval.
mhm.
And people love the idea of going, oh, okay, so it's a romance. Okay. But it's more than just that. There's a lot of, you have to know the history of the country. You have to know what was happening back then. You have to understand the feelings and the emotions, right? And that's what makes that kind of book that much better because it's not strictly a love story, it's a historical book.
Do you like historical fiction?
I've done a few. I wouldn't say it's a go-to because my only thing is, and I think this is more my analytical side, when you read a book about something that you've studied, you kind of get a little jaded on the information. So for me, it's hard to find a author that kind of goes with what I know because a lot of time my brain will read it and go, "Well, wait a minute. I know the facts. This is a little obscure." And it makes it a little difficult to follow, but it doesn't actually make it a bad book. It just kind of it challenges your school knowledge to the author's fictional world, I guess.
Yeah, I love historical fiction. I love the idea that it makes it palatable to learn history. Maybe I didn't want to learn or I didn't pay attention to when I was in school. And now, I mean, I'm a huge Mary Queen of Scots fan.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
I read anything I could find about her, and the story is the same. It doesn't matter which story you read, it's the story around the story, right? Which is what you're talking
Right.
about. It's the factual part of who this woman was and did she really do what they said she did, versus here's this woman and here's a real life, a breathing, living person that went through it. So I find that it makes it entertaining for me and it makes me want to learn more history.
And I think that is
Yeah,
probably where we're at, coming at from the purpose here.
yeah,
And I'll to finish up, a few quotes that I found. Readers often discover that while circumstances change, such as technology or customs, the emotional patterns stay the same. Literature doesn't promise progress, it offers recognition across decades of time. And I think that really is what the purpose of literature is. It's not here to make you think or make you be, it's here to give you what you know,
right,
kind of reinforcing the hey, we might be in a different year, but nothing really has changed too much in terms of how we
right,
work. So I like it. I think the purpose here is that literature is meant to remind you why you're doing, whatever it is you're doing.
right. And also that we're not alone. That we come from something bigger. I don't know,
Perfectly said.
right? Right? So, as we always like to say at the end of our shows, is to remind you that there is this amazing online bookstore, which, Rob, I don't know if you're following all the news, but bookstores are huge again. The bookstores
Oh
are
yeah, I've been watching.
right, big, big time, and I'm thrilled for you. And it's not it's the small mom and pop stores that are coming back out, and people are looking for that. They're looking for the community, and I know how important that is to you, Rob. That this is
Mm,
what the next chapter bookstore.shop is all about: community. And even though
yes.
you don't have a bricks and mortar kind of store yet, the community is still can be found online. And I say that
Right.
because you have, in addition to the books, you have games going on and fun things to do and activities that I really encourage people to go check it out. Especially, you have something coming up for Valentine's Day, right? Date with a
We might be working on something. We did just put up the blind date with a book a couple months ago, so that's still running, which is always fun. So
Yeah. So if you don't know what that is and you want to know what that is, it doesn't matter what time of the year you're watching this video, go check it out at the next chapter bookstore.shop, and let us know what you're thinking about. What would you like Rob and I to talk about in coming shows? Do you have a topic that we have not talked about, which would be hard to believe? But if there is a topic we have not chatted about, let us know in the comments. Tell us what you're reading right now. Any last thoughts, Rob?
go read a book.
Go read a book.